Like most of the people from Puerto Rico, they Roman Catholics, you know what I'm saying? Or they could be Protestant. They could be, in the Hallelujah Church, you know what I'm
The
saying?
Hallelujah Church.
The Hallelujah Church, praising the Lord and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying?
It's like baptism.
Ba-
Baptism.
baptism, yeah, and
Okay.
then they got in Puerto Rico a lot of people that, that are atheists or they just believe in their African heritage. Like, they with the bomba
Santeria.
Santeria, yeah, they with the bomba and plena, you know. That's the traditional music from Puerto Rico that came from they got African roots, you know what I'm saying? Cause that's where it came from, the drums and all that. And they practice that spirituality, you
Spirituality.
know what I'm saying? I don't bear mind to none of that. There's just a whole bunch of it's just another form of like Catholic because they got a whole bunch of
Yeah, they know they lined up like the original people
a lot of
of the area.
saints they worship.
Right, but what I noticed that they lined it up with the teachings of Yoruba.
Yoruba,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
they line it up with the Yoruba with Catholicism, and they
Okay.
matched it so that really it's almost like to help Yoruba survive the slave trade. You see what I'm saying?
Part and stuff, right? Because I heard about Yoruba. What was that? That's just another relation. Oh,
It's a
another.
well, it's a religion, and on face value, it's dealing with a whole bunch of like different like Shango and Oshun and whatnot. Like,
Oh, okay,
are
okay.
these different kind of deities? From the Western perspective, it would be like like they are looking at. It'd be like a whole bunch of different mystery gods, right?
Right.
But from what I understand, if you look into it further, it's actually just different personality types. But it lines up with Santeria, from what I understand, and anybody who's watching this, anybody who's doing the knowledge to this video can correct me, but Shango Santeria is a mixture of Catholicism and Yoruba.
Okay.
It's like a mixture of it. You know what I'm saying? And so they take Yoruba and line up the different personalities in the Yoruba tradition and put it with Catholicism and make like so Oshun would be considered like a saint.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like a you know what I mean? Like see how they got like the different saints in Catholicism. They would take those same saints that are in Yoruba and line them up with the saints of Catholicism. You know what I'm saying? So it's in my study. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not all the way versed in it, but I know just a little bit of it. And then what I do know, or from what I do understand, is that um, that was a way to help those African traditions to survive the whole slavery thing. You know what I'm saying? Because the slave master wasn't having like, oh, you trying to practice those religions from back home.
Back home, yeah. You was getting.
They gonna try to beat it out of you.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
And give you and replace the Catholicism. So this was a way for original people to kind of take to hold on to what they had, but to kind of camouflage it in the Catholic religion. You get what I'm saying? So
Just like it's interesting that you speak about that because that just made me think about the book that I was reading, Slavery in Latin America and the Caribbeans, right? I have the book there, right? That is, you know how in Brazil was one of the biggest continent of Latin America, where most of the slave population of the original people, were in that continent of Brazil, you know what I'm saying? And that's where they had that
you like the country, cause yeah, Brazil, the country Brazil.
the country Brazil. That's where the slaves back then, they used to practice their martial arts, but they used to disguise it as a dance to the slave master.
Right, right.
You know, so that made me think about that when you was building on that, how the original people were smart enough to still practice their tradition and their arts. You know what I'm saying? In front of the slave master, making it look like a dance.
Right.
Because that is fly though, God. That is like something real sharp, God. Cause when I see the dance that they have, it's like a martial art kind of dance. You know what I'm saying? And I like it a lot. You know what I'm saying? And it was very wise. You know what I'm saying? At those times where you wasn't even allowed to even pick up a book, because if you was caught reading something, the punishment was severe.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Or you probably die. You know what I'm saying? Because they ain't want nobody ever to be, having knowledge of anything. They wanted it. As a matter of fact, that's today's reality in the knowledge culture today. You know what I'm saying? Why does the devil keep our people illiterate, so he could use them as a tool, also a slave, so he could keep them blind to themselves, so he could master them? Illiterate means ignorant. They wanted to keep you dumb, deaf, and blind for the rest of your days, man, so they can, the process of the 64-year process, God. You know what I'm saying? That they took us from different Virginia, Alabama, all over, God. You know what I'm saying? That when they went to the foundation, Africa, which we call Asia, you know what I'm saying? They took us all over, God, to the Caribbean, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. The original people was all over, God. All over. South America, all over. Wherever you say there was an original people, plus the people that rebel against slavery. The Maroon tribes from Jamaica, you know what I'm saying? They rebelled against that, and the Taino Indians that rebelled, you know what I'm saying? They made a culture of their own, the ones that were, that they rebelled against the slavery. They went in the mountains to live, you know what I'm saying? And they survived. They had their own way of life, you know what I'm saying? So when, that happened also in Puerto Rico too, that, they were saying that there were no Indians, that the Taino Indians was extinct because they didn't want to go and count or go look. You know what I'm saying? They just, like, the governor at that time said, oh, they went extinct. But they never went extinct. They were there. They just ain't want to go and do the count. You know what I'm saying? Because Puerto Rico, you see, is a small island, but I tell you, take a walk from here to there, you see how big it is. It's huge, God. It's big. So it was enough forest there, you know what I'm saying, where they could have survived off the land, because they was already there, and they were living off the land before they even came amongst them.
Right.
So so they, and in a lot of places and a lot of documentaries that I seen, there were Taino Indians that was refusing, to give up their last name. They didn't wanna accept the last name, like Rivera. Right. They wanted their Taino name. They were like, okay, we don't have no other choice but to accept it, but we know our Taino name. So right. They knew that they were raped of their name and their land. A lot of them know that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting science. How the original people had to survive, and in their survival, they had to give up their names, had to give up their heritage in order to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like nowadays we think about just fighting to the last breath, but if you're thinking about the people of that time, and they had to worry about a whole, a whole family who might have been helpless to this onslaught of European oppression, and having to just like give up your time. So so from the other side of the Caucasian would be like, yeah, they extinct. No, that's just that. No, those people are just undercover
right
now. You know what I'm saying? They not extinct. They just happen to be, using the oppressors or the the colonizers' religion to hide their way of life, because they still may be practicing it, but they had to, in order to do trading, they have to speak that language.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just like an ill signs, you know, that I see all across the board. You know, from the Yoruba people, or the original people of the continent of Africa that we know as East Asia. You know, and then the original people of the North and South America. You know what I mean? And you know the indigenous people of these lands, and their encounters with the Caucasian.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a real interesting side, and it's a deep science. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a lot of times you think that these people might have just been, just folded. No, they just happen to transform to survive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a deep science, though, y'all.
If Mega did this.